Hi, my name is Jeffro, and this is Digital Dominance, the podcast for service-based small business owners who are ready to seize the recognition and growth that their company deserves. You've worked hard to build a business you're proud of. Now it's time for Digital Domination. Welcome back to Digital Dominance. Today, I'm joined by Nathan Newberry, a former agency owner and current remote high-ticket sales coach. With his Impact Accelerator method, Nathan is helping his clients land remote sales and presenting opportunities that can generate up to $15,000 per month. So in this episode, I'm excited to dive into Nathan's insights on mastering high-ticket sales. Welcome to the show, Nathan.
Yeah, super pumped to be on the show. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, you and I met in a coaching group with Dan Martell, and I always love it when coaches are getting coached. To me, that says they're practicing what they preach, and they definitely have that growth mindset.
100%. Yeah, if you're not growing, you're dying. That's definitely important. Coaches need coaches.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into the topic today, but I want to start with the basics. So for someone who's completely new to high-ticket sales, what are some core skills or traits that they should focus on developing?
Yeah, two major things in sales overall is that they need to have conviction about what they're selling and confidence about themselves. Most of the time, people don't know who they are, right? Or they don't have this thing. And there's a difference between like ego and being cocky and being confident, right? And confidence is just the way you handle yourself and the way you present yourself, that people know what you're talking about and feel like you have this authority about you because you know what you're talking about. And then the other part that's so important that I think people overlook is that they feel like people are slimy salespeople because they're just pushing things that they don't really believe in. And there has to be alignment with how you believe solely down in the deep parts of you, of like the connection between someone actually believing that the solution that they're offering to someone will actually truly help someone. And out of all the years that I've been in sales, and even just in nonprofit work and speaking and just the heart, the big thing that I ended up helping a lot with and growing in my sales and expertise of, winning these different awards and being the top person in different sales roles was just because I cared for people. And I truly didn't push anything that I didn't believe in with people. And I think that is a defining part about the size of growth that you can have individually in your growth, and just also feeling fulfilled in the work that you're doing too.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because if you really believe in it, then you're not being pushy, you're being persistent, because you're like, look, I see how this can help you right over here, and this is why I really think you should do it. That's different than you trying to meet a quota and you're like, are you sure you don't want to do this? I can give you a really great deal. Like, it's a totally different vibe and feel, and that comes through.
Yeah. People read that nowadays. Like, if you aren't authentic or really truly like wanting to help people, people can read that now.
Yeah.
I think so, at least. You can almost read it, or maybe just being in sales for a while, I can read people who are really authentic and care compared to people that, are pushy.
Well, even people might not be able to put their finger on it, but they kind of just get that gut feeling about it. And so that can push people away if it's not authentic. So what in your experience kind of differentiates high ticket sales from other types of sales roles?
Yeah. So there's three major things when people are looking to learn sales as a career. Let's say that. Okay, the other side of the things is I help business owners grow their revenue in their business, which also means that they have some marketing machine, and then they also have, a budget that's allocated for their team growth. And so they're more of looking overseas of their business overall compared to the individual that's looking to increase their sales. But overall, the salesperson, what they need is a compensation plan of a revenue that's, bigger than themselves. So this is what I mean by it. So imagine, you're a real estate broker in downtown Manhattan, New York, where every flat's $1 million plus, and we're real estate brokers, let's say, compared to being, out in the middle of nowhere, selling a property. It's the same amount of time and energy and effort to sell those properties, but way different outcomes. Or being a sales rep that's selling, a subscription phone at Verizon or something. So overall, the first thing is that you need a higher ticket offer that's going to allow you to be able to position the most amount of money in the compensation back. The other side, the second part of that is the compensation structure, right? There's some high ticket offers, but if there's not a good compensation with a commission, then it's almost as if you're having a low ticket, offer. So the compensation needs to be higher than normal. That's typically around 10 to 15% of that offer. Okay, that's in the high ticket space. The third one is the amount of leads coming in. Okay, so even if you're a business owner listening to this and you realize, hey, I probably don't want to do sales anymore. I just love to be behind my screen or managing this, that, and the other. Then what you need is the volume of a consistency in leads coming through on a consistent basis for that equation even to work in parallel with a salesperson being in that team. So that's the third part, is having enough leads coming in. Right? There's some avenues of things like if we look at the example of real estate, right? For me to sell a property takes me to go shake hands, kiss babies, and do a lot of networking connection just within that local market that I have to be able to sell a property. If most of the time in high ticket space, especially in coaching and service-based businesses, you're wanting to create an engine that allows you to have inbound high quality leads of people that want to work with you on a consistent basis, that allows that teammate to specialize like really heavily on what they're doing altogether, instead of just going out and doing outbound. So those are things that I think that are real important for the success of that in the career, and also the things to keep in mind for a business owner.
Okay. Well, I like that you went through that. And I have another kind of follow-up question with that, because probably are a lot of solopreneurs and business owners listening. But how do you know when to become a better salesperson yourself versus hiring an already experienced salesperson to come into the business and do that for you?
So sales is a skill. Yeah, some people have the gift of gab, right? So that allows them to like feel like they're better at it. But overall, it's a skill, and everybody needs to know how to do sales. Like Robert Kiyosaki in his book Rich Dad Poor Dad, he had his rich dad that said, hey, he asked his rich dad, like, what do I need to do to become like successful? And he's like, you need to learn and master how to do sales and communicate. And when you narrow this down to like how important this goes into every aspect of your life. So the importance of that, right? So to convince my kids to eat broccoli, to convince someone to date you, to, get a table in the nice spot of the restaurant you want to be, negotiating properties, to get interview and job, like, overall, like people water down the sales part, but really it's like you're just communicating effectively, and you need to learn that skill. That's the first thing. So it's a skill you need to craft, even if you don't have it naturally, or if you're an introvert, you still need to learn those things. And believe it or not, I'm an introvert, and there's a lot of books and things out there that actually introverts actually make the best salespeople. Okay, I truly believe that. So I think that's an element of that. The other part of what business is looking for when they're hiring is you have to have those three things. You have to have enough leads coming in. You have to have enough revenue to share, and the packaging and the pricing offering of that, positioning of that offer needs to be high enough so that the equation of having a salesperson can actually make sense. So to give you a breakdown of like industry-wise here in the States, for instance, you have two roles in sales. You have oftentimes the appointment setter and then the sales closer, right? Sometimes they blend. There's a hybrid of some of that depending on what it is. But like a setter is often looking for anywhere from 3 to 6K a month, okay? The closer is often looking for anywhere from 7 to 15, sometimes 20K a month, okay? So if we keep that in mind, like we just need to reverse engineer that whole numbers with everything. And if someone's needing, this, I don't mind giving this out, but if they like DM me the word Jeffro in my Instagram account, I can give someone a whole like playbook with some of that breakdown, if that would be helpful for people.
Yeah, definitely. And we can make sure to put that in the show notes as a reminder too. But now what about when, I've seen business owners want to bring in a salesperson, but they're expecting that salesperson to bring their own leads or to go out and hunting for leads. But the way you're talking about it, obviously there's a clear distinction between sales and marketing, but maybe a business owner's not at that point yet. Is that ever a feasible role to find a person who's able to do that?
There is. It's not too often that you're going to find that. Like you might find like a good person to go around town in their local market, but like a lot of businesses, if they're local, then they can hire someone that just like glad hands around, and they'll go to BNI meetings and chambers and be kind of like a front-facing side of the business that can generate those businesses. But more often than not, like a business owner needs to look at like globalized audience. How can they help people in the world? And if that's the case, you need to have two aspects of that. There's some aspects of things that you can generate some machines working on outbound, but really you need to build in authority. And when you build that authority, you're going to get more inbound, high quality leads of clients that you want to work with. and they know that they're going to get the results from the work that you're able to do because you're the expert, and you're also able to get paid what you're worth because they view you as that lens. So this is really where you have the differentiation of like specialists and generalists. Generalists get paid, a certain amount. Specialists get paid a lot more. Think of a general practitioner, doctor, a neurosurgeon. Like neurosurgeon makes more, right? And so be highly specialized. That kind of helps in a lot of ways with people feeling like you know what you're talking about, and that can actually help them deliver those results.
Yeah, and so what I'm hearing, especially for the business owners listening, if you're kind of not sure how to move forward, it sounds like you should plan to be doing the sales and develop your own sales abilities, and in parallel, maybe work on getting this marketing engine in place so that you have leads coming in. And then at a certain point, maybe you get better at sales, right? And you got more leads coming in. Now that's maybe when you hand it off, bring somebody in, they're going to be like, okay, we've got a lead flow. I can work with that. And you know what you want them to do and what has worked and not worked for you. You can pass that along so they kind of get a jumping off point with your particular business and industry. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, so there's 3 phases of businesses that I see with doing it either like all by themselves or when they start adding teammates to it. So it's typically from 0 to 30. That's kind of like launch. So 30K a month consistent. And then you got from 30K to 100K a month. That's like building that authority. And from 100K plus, that's really kind of that scale part that every business likes to be running. But it just depends on the profitability of the business and their like heavy expenses and the debt ratio of everything. But typically a service-based business or a coaching business has over 50% profit margin. And so if that's the case, and you're running that way, that should be able to allow you to have that runway to start looking at building a sales team with that profit and those margins and those numbers.
Now, what about AI? I know you teach your students sometimes to use that. Are you teaching them how to find leads or how to follow up, nurture? How do you teach them to use it?
Yeah, and so I guess this goes back to the question of like, you got to build authority in your own personal brand in your company. And that takes on like different layers of things. You need consistency in leads, but the way you get that is also like making sure you're creating enough content and value out there in the world and being on enough stages that people see you as that authority and notices you. Okay. And then that leads into like the sales part, because that's just one aspect of your business. Typically there's 4 hats that we wear as a business owner. Number 1, it's sales for sure, selling your business, but you also need to market your business. Then you need to do the fulfillment. And then you also have the leadership side of like managing your automation systems and your team, right? And some of those things AI can help with, right? In your business, a lot like how to create some content, hooks, and all those things, looking at advice for how to look at some lead generations. But in particular, with talking about sales, AI right now is on the verge of precipice of almost acting like human, right? You've seen this with like cold calling stuff, and then like maybe like sell by chat type of thing that could be automated. I've tested a few things there. It's him and on right there with some of the results, or either way you have to program it at the very moment at least. But you can use AI in a lot of ways. Follow-up emails, helping you with your pipeline. The way I look at things and the way I handle my teams is you got an AI, connection with a trained assistant. Mm-hmm. That's going to help you buy back at least 3 to 5 hours a day on your sales process, because they can help you so much with your pipeline management, your follow-up, helping you really kind of put together a full game plan for every aspect of your sales process and your marketing.
You mentioned the sell by chat approach briefly. Can we dive into that a little bit?
Yeah. So you want me to explain kind of like what it is and then how it could be helpful for a business?
Sure. Well, by contrast, a lot of people are familiar with the traditional way of doing sales. There's the door-to-door approach. There's the scheduling meetings and appointments, doing phone calls. And even now people are used to doing Zoom meetings and stuff. But chat, it feels like a different animal. But is it? Can you talk about the differences there?
A lot of businesses can do sell by chat. So it's the sale from start to finish is what it is. So you're not only qualifying them, you're also like understanding, through different questions from discovery, you're also widening the gap with understanding their pain and their goals, and then also helping create a solution that they want to use you. But there has to be, it's not a cold DM, you have to nurture them. So the way the positioning works is people have to have a trust of you and your brand. And then from there, they have to be interested in knowing your process. And then from once they know the process and the trustworthy of the brand, then they can have a discussion about how you can help them solve their solution. Because if you have it's almost like a cold call of just saying, hey, I can help you with it. They're like, who are you and what are you talking about, right? So if you're doing the cold stuff, it's not going to work as efficiently. It can work as a stepping stone to a booked call that then create that authority and understanding of the process. But those two elements of your whole branding and your voice in the nurturing process has to be dialed in so that the time that someone raises their hand and having a discussion with you, it's typically about just the details of the process that they are already familiar with. And because they know your authority in that space, that then you can sell them by chat alone.
Right. And raising their hand means like following you or liking a post or commenting or checking out your profile, things like that.
Right. Getting lead magnets, getting, more clarity around some content that you're putting out, like all those things. Like people have to know your process and about you, that you're that trustworthy person that can help with that solution.
Yeah. And especially if you have that lead magnet, you can still lead with value through that chat process, give them something, and then it's a natural way to move the process forward and ask them about what else they need help with or things like that.
Totally, 100%.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I do think a lot of businesses are moving in that direction, or at least should be moving in that direction.
Should be.
Yeah. So if you're, just understand a lot of people aren't yet. So if you start doing that, you're probably going to be ahead of the curve still in that early phase of people adopting that.
Yeah, there's less and less people that have time to FaceTime, people. Like they just want to kind of chat and they go back and forth and it makes an easier process. I think people prefer it, and it will actually allow people, even on the sales side and in the business side, actually to streamline things because you'll have more efficiency in conversations. You can have more conversations all at once instead of one person one-on-one with a person. It allows you to have like diversified conversations all at once and someone managing them, working with them. And so you can actually scale up with your revenue and your business quite a bit. And
I actually think that, the selling by chat approach actually is a huge win for the introvert salesperson, right? Because this is your world. I don't have to go anywhere. I can just do it on my phone or on my computer to talk to people. And I think the extroverts are going to struggle with this because they're like, I got to get out and like see someone, shake a hand, talk to, like, they want to be out in the world. And so this might actually be a lot harder for them.
Yeah. I mean, there'll be some that will be a little more complicated to do. Like if you're like an architect, let's say, that's going to be a little hard to do a full DM sales because you need to have a conversation a little bit to like discuss specific dimensions and likes and stuff like that. So there's going to be some complexity of things, but it can still be used to then schedule that call. So I think people are, instead of disqualifying it altogether, this doesn't work for my business. I think there is a valid part that it will work in some function in every business. And so if we're learning that of like, how can I help attract these inbound leads and then communicate with them enough and nurture them enough that they actually want to be connected with you. So let me give you an example of what I mean by this. People need to be aware of your business all the time because as much as they love you, they will forget you. Okay. I had this when I ran my marketing agency before I sold it. And then I got into the high ticket sales and started building, $1 million a month in sales with teams. Right. I had a guy that was a close friend. He was at church. He like left his family because he found out some stuff and he was just being an idiot, right? And I was just coaching him through it. He just thought a lot about like him leaving his family. I just coached him like every day. He'd come to my office. We'd sit down, grab him, give him a cup of coffee and tea and pray with him and kind of just help him through like ideas about some of these stuff, right? I did that for like a month. Okay. Time goes on. He actually becomes like a political figure in our community, right? And he needs to have an online presence, use social media management, a website, and do all this stuff, which I did professionally. Did he ever contact me? No, because I forgot to tell him what I did or that he just forgot, right? Which is so funny because even the close ties, your family and friends, even though you think that they're always thinking about you, they're not. And so this is where it's just like you being unaware on their like radar is so important. So the online presence, having the lights turned on with good content continually going out is going to be so helpful for you to build that brand and awareness for every company and every brand across every industry.
Yeah, and even as you were talking about that and remembering conversations and who does what and everything, it made me realize that having these chats on social media platforms or messaging platforms, that's kind of serving as a mini CRM for you, right? Because you can see when the last message was, you can scroll back and see what you talked about, where you left off. and it's way easier to just pick it up and you remember everything because it's all right there in the history.
Yep. Context of, what you said, how you said it, all document. Yeah, it's very, very helpful for sure.
Yeah. In person, someone shows up out of nowhere like, hey, what was your name again? But if someone DMs you out of the blue, you just scroll up a bit like, oh yeah, that guy. And it's seamless.
Yeah, it makes it so much easier. And there's even tools to like connect all the dots too. Like you want to connect all your social media so that you can have a team to manage it or you can manage it. There's some really great ways that people need to start really thinking about this in their business a lot.
So let's kind of take this in for the last few minutes. Can you walk us through when you bring in a client, maybe as part of your accelerator method or something, you're going to help them with sales. What do you look at and what are you setting up to make them more efficient and effective?
Well, we have to audit what they're doing first and what they're not doing or what they're doing, right? I think that's the first phase that we really kind of identify. And then we plug and play full levels of like scripts, full playbooks. And then if they need to be doing it themselves, then we coach them through it and or we actually give them a closer and a setter, a hybrid person within their company themselves. And so that's what we do is we just help. We have two avenues of it, a done with you and a done for you aspect of things for a business to scale with that. But that's just a simple way that we look at it.
Nice. And I forgot to ask a question earlier when we were talking about bringing a salesperson into your business. There's commission only, right? And then there's, base salary plus commission. I think a lot of business owners like the idea of having a commission only salesperson because that way they don't have to worry about factoring in that initial cost of having another person on board. But what you talked about, there's that transition point where it may or may not make sense financially to do that. So how do you find the right person and kind of navigate that if there's someone who wants a base salary versus you maybe don't want to pay one?
Yeah, there's different like compensation structures. A lot of sales departments in like the corporate world will do like a 60-40 split where it's like you're doing 60% base and then a 40% commission. In this high ticket world, you can just do like commission based, but they need to know those like elements within the business. How many leads are coming in? Inbound, right? And they need to look at how much the commission structure is. And then, if it's high enough commission to achieve that breakdown from the high ticket offer. So you need to like really structure your offer in such a way that they feel like there is a alignment with them achieving their goal. Because if there isn't, so oftentimes when people start this and they start putting the gasoline on lit flame here of like the amount of marketing or content they need to do, it's a ramp up period. So you can sell someone into your company of saying, hey, stick with me for the first 90 days while I'm growing this and I'll work with you and I'll help you, as we go up, but just give them a realistic expectation of the next 3 months, you got to grow with me. And you'll find some people to like dig deep with you at the very beginning, but you'll probably need to just help them out with the first month or two if you're ramping that up. But industry standard for, a setter, you typically do a little base with a commission. So it's like $1,500 a month with like a 5% commission, right? That's just a setter. But if you're doing full blown, like sell by chat, you're going to have that hybrid approach and you're going to often probably be paying 10 to 15% on commission from the closed deal. So industry wise there's that. So people can achieve their goal.
Awesome. Well, I have lots more questions, but we're out of time for today. Hopefully what we've talked about has been helpful to those of you listening, especially if you're thinking about hiring a closer or an appointment setter and kind of figuring out when to even consider that. I think this conversation has been helpful for that. So thank you for joining me today, Nathan. And for you guys listening, use the links in the show notes, connect with Nathan on LinkedIn or Instagram, or check out his website. Like he said, DM him the word Jeffro, and he's got some helpful playbooks that he can send to you. Last question for you, Nathan. What's your favorite thing about being a coach?
The growth that people achieve. And it's so rewarding when you get to help people on the other side of like, hey, I've achieved this growth myself and you're helping other people see it and believe it and like start growing in themselves. So it's just so fun to see people achieve those results. It's a blast. The most challenging part with a coach is when people don't listen to you. And they're like, they don't implement. And a lot of times people have great grand ideas, but they don't take action on the most important things. And that's why I'm really selective of who I'm working with, because if they don't have that drive and commitment to like carve out a specific amount of time to dedicate to their business, it's not even worth, helping them, because they're not going to achieve the results. And I'm not going to help them achieve it either,
That makes sense. Well, thanks again for joining me today, Nathan. Thanks to all of you guys for listening. Please make sure to leave a review for the show, and I'll see you back here for the next episode of Digital Dominance. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to the Digital Dominance Podcast. This show is brought to you by FroBro.com. If you are a B2B service provider and you're ready to transform your website into a high-converting, lead-generating sales tool, go to FroBro.com/revive to learn more.